To make an outdoor video, most people strap an action camera to a helmet, hit record, and pedal into the woods. The result is always the same: a violently shaking image accompanied by the deafening roar of wind noise. Capturing the northern arc of the Green Circle Tour requires a different approach. The goal is a broadcast-grade documentary with distinct A and B roll, dynamic camera moves, and pristine audio. Passive, continuous recording from a single perspective cannot produce that level of visual storytelling. Achieving a professional aesthetic out on the trail demands a strict, deliberate production design. The solution replaces the concept of a continuous ride with a targeted acquisition mission. Rather than filming a 27-mile loop straight through, the workflow breaks the route into geographical zones, requiring multiple deliberate passes of specific 50-yard sections to gather diverse data. The GugoES GT20 e-bike provides the heavy, stable platform needed for this work, functioning as a mobile camera crane to anchor the rigid camera extensions. Treating the trail as a modular film set allows for precise tracking shots and environmental cutaways, while using only a fraction of the battery capacity and media storage. This wireframe diagram illustrates the geometry of the camera mounts. While we choose the framing in post-production, the physical mounting point dictates the spatial perception of motion. Extending a mount high above the handlebars creates an ideal cockpit view for dialogue, while a rigid arm extending 4 feet behind the seat replicates the floating perspective of a tracking drone. The most critical placement is the low-side dropout mount. A rigid extension arm clamps to the front fork, positioning the lens a mere 6 inches above the ground. This extreme proximity to the trail multiplies the kinetic energy of the shot. The local nature reserve enforces a strict 12-mile-per-hour speed limit, but from an elevation of 6 inches, the crushed granite blurs past the lens, simulating a much higher velocity. Mastering this physical rigging geometry is the method used to convert a slow, compliant ride through the woods into a visually thrilling sequence. Off the bike, we capture macro details and shallow depth of field using a handheld cinema engine, a smartphone running a dedicated cinema app. This animated exposure triangle highlights a technical challenge in mobile cinematography. To get cinematic motion blur, the shutter angle must be locked at 180 degrees. Smartphones also have a fixed physical aperture, locking 2 out of the 3 corners of the triangle. In bright outdoor sunlight, dropping the ISO to its minimum floor still isn't enough, resulting in a massively overexposed image. The solution is mounting physical neutral density filters directly over the smartphone lens, cutting the light transmission mechanically before it ever reaches the sensor. Overriding the phone's auto exposure and manually shaping the light with external glass elevates the footage from a staccato digital look to a professional cinematic weight. Audio capture requires the same level of physical isolation. To capture true acoustic telemetry, we decouple the sound recording from the main cameras using a dedicated front yoke. Wrapping that capsule in a dense dead cat windshield and sticking to the 12-mile-per-hour trail speed cap completely eliminates wind shear clipping. Free from wind distortion, the microphone pulls rich textures directly from the front tire. You hear the high-pitched whine of asphalt, the deep crunch of crushed granite, and the echoing hollow thumps of wooden wetland boardwalks. This pristine, tactile audio track grounds the visuals and drives the viewer's perception of the terrain. Out on the trail, we execute this plan at localized acquisition anchors: the urban transition on Maria Drive, the forest canopy of Schmeickel Reserve, and wooden boardwalks over Moses Creek. At each of these anchors, we dismount and unclamp the camera pole. Extending the pole manually allows for fluid jib, crane, and orbit moves around physical landmarks, like the outdoor art in the Stevens Point Sculpture Park. Integrating these handheld, sweeping environmental movements breaks the rigid, mechanical perspective inherent to bike-mounted cameras. Once the assets are captured, a single hand clap on location serves as the triple sync protocol. That audio spike aligns the 360-degree video, the 4K B-roll, and the tactile audio stems in the editing timeline. This animated flowchart shows how we bridge the gap between physical footage and a full narrative. The synchronized video and spatial telemetry logs form a digital foundation, which we feed into the Maison Esthétique Studios. The Studio OS parses the written script and generates AI motion synthesis, like historical cutaways or macro-mechanical views, that perfectly match the color, lighting, and tone of our foundational real-world footage. Professional outdoor filmmaking is an engineered, multi-layered system that takes a standard local trail loop and transforms it into an immersive cinematic reality.